Hello, I'm Umbreon Libris, and today on Tin Tower Talks, I wanted to discuss the ways that us Pokemon fans engage with the franchise that are outside of the established media, the established canons, and how we push the boundaries of the franchise. Things like writing fan fiction, designing fakemon, and creating fan games. And joining us today, we have HoodlumCallum, one of the biggest Pokemon
Hi.
YouTubers, and someone who plays a lot of fan games. And Xia Phearix, or Nick, an old friend of mine who also plays fan games, but does a lot of pixel art and creature design, and is also in the process of developing his own fan game, Pokemon Zirconia. Callum, Nick,
Salutations.
welcome to Tin Tower Talks.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I love podcasts. Any opportunity to do them, I'll take it.
Fantastic.
I just love talking, dude. I just love talking.
So before we really get into it, maybe you can tell us a bit about your background with Pokemon. So, like, Callum, what is it about Pokemon that drew you in?
Just general Pokemon.
Yeah.
For me, I just love that there's like something for everybody. Like people that like collecting, people that like battling, people that just wanna grind to like everything's level 100. Like I don't know, there's a bit of something for everybody. There's the lore. There's a lot that goes into Pokemon. You can make theories, but I don't know. There's so much to Pokemon that that's the reason why it's such a powerhouse of a franchise, and I just love that. To be honest.
Cool. How about you, Nick?
For me, it's really the art aspect of it. I think because in 2015 I was drawn to your forum, PMF at the time, the Pokemon Mutation Factory, and there is where I used to learn how to sprite with a few amazing friends, and since then I've been going up and up and up, and since then I've been just going in more and more communities, and those communities turned into fan game communities, and there I've been developing more sprites for Pokemon fan games, and then also my own. So it's more of a line of stepping stones, which I've been going up to from the games to the card game to the communities to spriting to fan communities and upwards.
Nick credits me with teaching him how to sprite. I think he gives me too much credit, though.
I'm not directly crediting you, but the community.
The forum that I used to run.
That's 6 years of experience. That's pretty rad.
Yeah. The thing that I think is really interesting is that Pokemon seems to foster a lot more of these things, all these things that are outside of the main canon, that like more than any other franchise that I've seen. So if you look at fan fiction, for example, the Pokemon category is, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, both in gaming and in anime. Bigger than any of the others that are even like similar ones like Digimon, for example. But what I haven't quite figured out, what I wanted to talk about, is what makes Pokemon special in that regard. Like, what is it about Pokemon specifically that causes us, the fans, to want to engage with it, but in ways that aren't like the main series games, not just play the games or watch the anime, but actually build things that are on top of that. What about Pokemon is different in that regard?
I don't know. I'm trying to like imagine. Maybe we have to take into consideration Pokemon is huge. Pokemon is literally the highest grossing media franchise. You've probably heard that a lot recently. It's massive. So I mean, it's like, is it just because of the scale of it, because it's so big and so many people like it, and it's just in my I don't know. Is it maybe because of that, or is it maybe just because there's just so much to Pokemon? Like there's humans and then there's creatures, and I don't know. There's people make their own fakemons and stuff like that, which is super cool. I don't know. I it's kind of really hard to say. I think it's probably a bit of both. Like because it's so huge and because I don't know, you can just easily insert yourself into it because Pokemon has humans. You can build your own story, I guess, when it comes to fan fiction.
Yeah, the thing about the biggest media franchise, I think it warrants a caveat that most of that revenue comes from merchandise. So like if you compare it to Digimon in the anime side, or The Legend of Zelda in the video game side, in terms of like sales just of that medium, it's a lot more even. Where Pokemon really wins out is on the merchandise.
It's also something where, like Callum said, it's a huge thing, but the Pokemon company itself and the fan base also, with the risk of sounding a bit ironic here, but both of them really know how to evolve, like Pokemon itself. So yeah, they evolve into what do the newer generations like? What do the fans want and can bring to the table of their own communities? How does everything evolve to be better and more enjoyable about the entire concept of Pokemon?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. So like Pokemon games come out roughly like once a year or so, whereas Zelda games don't come out as frequently. But even though Zelda games like Breath of the Wild sold as well as like say Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, would Zelda sell as well if it came out yearly like Pokemon? I don't think it would. I think Pokemon.
No.
I think if Pokemon games came out more slowly, each individual game would end up selling more. I don't know. I'm just trying. I think the only reason why Pokemon doesn't sell that much is because it's like, oh, there's gonna be another one next year. You know what I mean? It's fine. You can miss this one.
It's probably because Zelda games are a lot harder too. Because Pokemon games are well, the more you grow up, you kind of learn how Pokemon games work because it's always the same chemical makeup for in some way. So and the older you get, the more you know what to do. What substance to put in what and how it goes. You go buy places, earn tokens, whether it's from the 4 kahunas or gyms, and then you go up to a league.
Yeah, Pokemon has stayed a lot closer to its core formula throughout all of the years. Like, because Zelda is also formulaic, or has been for a good portion of its lifespan. But each iteration on that formula tends to be quite different. Wind Waker versus Ocarina of Time, those are two very different games, even though structurally they're pretty similar.
Yeah, with Pokemon being huge, but basically what I mean is like, even though I don't know, like all the games obviously sell ridiculously well, and also if you show somebody a Pikachu, 9 times out of 10 they'll know who it is. Like, everybody knows Pikachu, everybody knows what Pokemon is. Whereas Zelda wouldn't be as popular in that regard. So I think, Pokemon's just huge. Everybody knows about it. Like, Pokemon Go helped.
If you show someone a picture of Link, there's a good chance they'll call him Zelda.
Yep, exactly. Like, oh yeah, that's Zelda.
Yeah.
And also, if you show people a picture of a Lapras, there's more chance they know it than the King of Red Lions.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
It's the boat in which Link goes through the sea in Wind Waker.
But even thinking back to the 90s, obviously it blew up very quickly, but it was still like just starting out, and Digimon was blowing up at the same time. I think Pokemon was always bigger than Digimon, but they did kind of appear at the same time. But even back then, when I wanted to like draw some fantasy creature, I didn't draw a Digimon. I drew a Pokemon. And like probably whatever I drew would have fit equally poorly as a Digimon as it did a Pokemon, but I called it a Pokemon because that was the world that I wanted to create in.
I think Digimon's more limited because like every Digimon has Mon at the end of its name, and that's just so lame. Agumon, Greymon, Patamon, like.
I also like that one joke which goes about how to design a Pokemon versus how to design a Digimon. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I thought it was really interesting.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, but
it's like it was like a DeviantArt meme or something.
Yeah, it's a joke. Just how to make a Pokemon. Take a real life species, make it more round and cutesy, and give it an elemental property, and then save it. How to make a Digimon. Grab a dog and duct tape as many knives, guns, and grenades to it as humanly possible.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, to be honest.
Yeah, especially if you're thinking of like the later stages.
Pokemon also has the simple elemental types of like, fire, grass. Well, it was Pokemon came before Digimon, right? Digimon doesn't have types or anything. I think Pokemon is just in a really good spot where it was like, I guess kind of like the first of its kind. So like it can do fire, water, grass, electric, and all these basic elements. And like anybody else that does that is kind of biting off of Pokemon. So they try to make it different, and it just overcomplicates things. So I don't know, Pokemon.
True. Yeah.
Pokemon's got the advantage of being first and just like keeping it simple and making it, because There's like, I think Yokai Watch. Do they have elements? I don't know. I've heard like other monster games and everything just seems a lot more complex. Pokemon keeps it simple, which is obviously more of the appeal. It's like, that's a dragon type, that's a flying type, that's an electric type. I don't know.
In terms of gameplay, though, Pokemon is this kind of interesting blend of simple and complex. But yeah, so like for the main game, you don't really need to worry about things like abilities, natures, or even types, really. Like you do kind of like at the very beginning of the early game, but later on, if you just over level, you don't need to care about that stuff. But then there's the competitive side, and everything comes into play. I guess kind of like Super Smash Brothers, where you can play it as a button masher, but if you're playing it at a higher, like more competitive level, you need to know what you're doing.
Games that are like easy to play, hard to master, like I think those are really appealing games, and Pokemon kind of hits the nail on the head. I mean, it's not really hard to. I think what Pokemon difficulty is memorization, remembering all the types. Once you know your type matchups, and I guess what moves do.
One game Callum is currently playing is one of the more gimmicky yet hardest Pokemon games out there. It's Pokemon Conquest.
Oh yeah, Pokemon Conquest is really fun.
What's that one like?
It's a bit Final Fantasy Tactics-like, but based on a certain old Japanese battle era game.
Nobunaga's Ambition?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Nobunaga's Ambition X Pokemon, and that's a crossover game between those two. So you see,
it is ridiculously fun. It is so fun. And one thing I really liked about it is that I don't know what I've been noticing with mobile games and like I guess side games nowadays is that they simplify things. Where like Pokemon Masters, they made it so every Pokemon only has one weakness. So a Pokemon like Goldeen, it's weak to electric and grass. I know that, but the game says it's only weak to grass. I've got Pikachu right here that should be super effective on it. It's really annoying me that it's not.
Yeah.
The one thing I liked about Conquest is that it stays true to that. Like for example, Rhyperior uses Rock Wrecker. If it lands, he has to recharge. That is true to the main game, and I really like that. But the thing, they also added the run abilities, which is super cool. Like there's Shed Skin, but then they also added I can't remember the ability, but it's an ability that just sometimes allows you to avoid an attack. It's pretty cheap. Pokemon Conquest is a really good side game.
In terms of battle mechanics, is it very similar to the core mechanics of main series games?
Yeah, kind of. That's why I think I'm able to pick it up quite easily because I know all my type matchups, and it's just learning it's mainly the placement that I'm struggling with. Like the I don't know. It's still 6v6 usually for the most part because you get 6 Pokemon, your opponent gets 6 Pokemon, but it's kind of just like chess. There's different like requirements. Like sometimes you'll have to. The one I struggled on the most was you have to hold I think 4 flags for. Yeah, you just had to be the first person to hold all 4 flags, and I just kept forgetting which flag I had and didn't have, and I would lose because the enemy would grab it, and I'd just like, oh wait, I didn't have that flag. Oops, I lost. So it's just I don't know. There's a lot to think about in that game, but yeah, it's a really good fun side game.
I gotta try it sometime. I'm actually enjoying
100%.
Pokemon Masters quite a bit.
Me too. I'm really enjoying it, but like it is very simplified. They simplified it. I mean, I understand why. I'm just glad Pokemon Go isn't that simple.
Pokemon Masters is on the Switch, right?
No, it's on the phone.
I wish if it was on the Switch, it probably could have had more complete battle mechanics.
Just from hearing us talk here, Pokemon has got so much that invites people to play. There's all these side games, which I am missing, honestly. Like playing Pokemon Conquest, I'm just like, damn, I really miss side games that are not on mobile. I'm enjoying the mobile fan games. There's fan games, side games. I'm enjoying the mobile side games, but I prefer Mystery Dungeon, I prefer Ranger, I prefer Conquest, I prefer all these side games that are, I guess, actual games. I don't know. Mobile games are actual games too, but
and the thing is that those games do things that are different from the main series as well. So like that's another way of exploring different sides of the world that aren't canonical, really, if you're considering the main series games as the main canon, which is how I always think about it. Mystery Dungeon is the mechanics. I haven't played it, but the mechanics, as far as I understand, are completely different, right?
Well, the way stats work and everything are like, it's so weird. Like a Pokemon. So, for example, the Pokemon you play as, the starter Pokemon, as far as I know, when it evolves, its stats don't get better. Like the stats it has from when it's a small Pokemon, like to Totodile to Feraligatr, they have the exact same stat total.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. The stat distribution is way different. It's a dungeon crawler. It's a different game all completely. Like moves like are complete. It's different. It's a different game, but it's still Pokemon. And I'm actually really shocked. I've heard a lot of people saying that Mystery Dungeon was their first Pokemon game, and that's how they got into the franchise. And I'm just like, damn, that's really cool. Because most of the time I just assume it's main series games, but like side games have attracted quite a lot of new players also.
Yeah, or Pokemon Go.
I'm 29 right now, so I've lived the entire Pokemon thing, and my very first game was Pokemon Yellow.
Same here.
My very first Pokemon game that I physically owned was Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald.
Well, I mean, at least you started in Kanto as well.
Yeah. I'm 22, and I'm born exactly 1 year after Pokemon started. So the 27th of February 1997 is when I'm born. 27th of February 1996 is Pokemon's birthday.
That's a good birthday to have.
It is a very good birthday to have. I'm very blessed.
I just love how naive and stupid I was in my time. When the trading card games were out, I had a Chansey holographic. That was one of the rarest cards of the first series you could have. But at that time, I didn't have any clue about rarity or value, so I traded it away for a Caterpie.
Oh no.
That is sad. That's
sad.
I never got into the Pokemon trading cards, sadly. I nowadays it's like, okay, I can afford it now, but like that is such a huge money sink. That's such a huge money investment.
I buy them occasionally, but not to play, really. I buy them more as art cards, and I really wish that I could buy cards that are just the art.
Yeah, same.
I was also a collector. I never played them.
One thing I actually really liked from younger, there was these Pokemon dog tags. I don't know if you ever seen them, but like they were like, those kind of got popular in my school, and I was like really excited because I'm like, oh my god, people are talking about Pokemon. But that was like the only time anybody talked about Pokemon when I was in school. Look up like Pokemon. I think it's Pokemon dog tags. It didn't have every single Pokemon, but it did have quite a lot. I remember being so excited when I got Rayquaza because I think it only went up to Gen 3. Got Rayquaza dog tag, and I was so happy. I actually got 2 in a row. I got Rayquaza, then opened the next pack, got Rayquaza again. I was like, damn, this is the best day ever.
I know in the Johto era you had those metal coins or something with plastic over them or something, and then maybe it's just a Dutch thing, but we had them and just had a lot of those metal coins with just bad background and a Pokemon on top of them, and they were collectibles. And
yeah, I miss those things, man. It's so nice. I want more like collectible things like that. Like just Pokemon tags are so cool.
And that's something that Pokemon has always done very well. I mean, especially back in the day, and like the peak of Pokemania. To bring it back to the main topic, maybe that's why we always default to Pokemon when we're trying to, come up with a fantasy creature or something else. It's just Pokemon has just infiltrated our lives so deeply that you're always going to think of Pokemon before you think of a Digimon or of another monster
series,
game or series. Yeah. Nick,
yo,
tell us a bit about your fan game. Tell us about Pokemon Zirconia. What drove you to start that?
Other fan games, pretty much. When I saw other fan games being developed or being out, I just thought something like, you know what? I can probably make my own story and a fake dex, gather around a couple of friends and do something.
Is there anything specific that you're trying to do that's different from the main series or different from what you've seen before?
I don't know if there's anything different. I mean, I have plenty ideas to put in, but I have a new fake type. One that hasn't been developed before with a certain lore behind them, which isn't a bit far-fetched.
So it's not alien type or anything?
No, it's not alien type. It's the reason I hesitated is because it's kind of an alien type in that it's a bit off-center, but not too much.
Okay.
Like, just say the evil team out of my game produces a Pokemon type, which it tries to use to dominate the living world. And I say living world because that fake type is, they are alive to an extent, but they're robots, basically.
Right. Okay, that's pretty cool. So it's not like nuclear or shadow.
No.
It's a robot.
I know what the
but-
type is, but is this something that you're trying to not talk about too much to keep it under wraps for the time being?
Well, I'm already being a bit careful with my words, so,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
Yeah,
don't
that's fine,
worry
that's
about
fine.
that. But the type has been released on my Twitter, so you can I can just say
Right.
what it is. It's the synth type, so synthetic synth.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. I don't know. I always like it when games add their own types and fakemon. I don't know. That's mainly what I look for in like fan games, I guess.
I just have to be careful because Callum once said on Twitter somewhere that he absolutely hates spiders, which made me a bit anxious maybe, because one of my early roots bug types, its final is a tarantula. So
That's fine. To be honest, I don't put down the game every time I see an Ariados or a Galvantula, so I can deal with them. It's a cartoon spider. It's okay. It's just
Okay.
funny. I hate spiders.
to go back to the things where I'm willing to add to Zirconia. I mean, Zirconia isn't even in development yet because personal lives of people are more important than a fan game. I think.
Of course.
I don't rush.
You're working
people.
on the decks and the lore first before you actually make the game.
Yeah, that too.
To be honest, like there's been fan games that have been in development for like 10 plus years, and then they're just now kind of finally starting to reach the end of development. And it's something you're doing just out of your own time, out of your own. You're not getting money for it or anything. You're just doing it because you enjoy doing it. So I don't know. I don't really like it when people are like, "Wow, will this hurry up and release?" I'm just like, they're doing it for free, man.
There's two little things I want to have in my game, which are not in the canon games, which are that water isn't effective against ice,
Yeah, I like that.
and that acid does super effective damage against steel types.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe make it more realistic. Make like fan requested things happen. I think that's pretty cool.
The reason behind acid is actually from my childhood, the very first anime series of Pokemon. Before Steel type was a thing, the SSN, you had Team Rocket stuck in the sinking ship,
Right.
and Jesse said use acid on the hull, and it burned
Right.
straight
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
So I thought something like, hey, that's Steel 2, isn't it?
I think the reason why Pokemon just haven't changed that nowadays is just to not overcomplicate a 40 base power move. But yeah, because I mean, they
Yeah.
could easily add multi types to sort of like Muddy Water could be Water Ground type, and
Mm-hmm. And they've done that with Flying Press.
yeah. But I think the reason why they haven't gone back and done it is just to not overcomplicate things and make Flying Press, for example, like I guess unique. But that's why I think they added Corrosion because they wanted to address that. I mean, I guess they could have maybe updated Acid if they wanted because they updated like Knockoff and other moves like that.
Leech Life.
Oh yeah, Leech Life, Jesus Christ.
The fun part about fan games is also that you can add new abilities and new moves. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one ability I'm going to add is for a sewer rat I'm going to implement somewhere, and its ability is Contaminate. And Contaminate adds a chance that water types can poison the opponent. So if you use Muddy Water, it has a chance to poison.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're using it, I guess, largely as a way to explore different kinds of mechanics that aren't in the main series.
Also because I have the synth type, I'm kind of open to a lot of more terms out of the robotic or plastic world or something. That one fakemon of the synth type, which is called Slaytech, is kind of an Eevee of the synth type because it can evolve into 5 different robots. One of those is a grass type, which will have the ability biodegradable. And biodegradable is that if that robot faints, it triggers grassy terrain.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean that's super
really
cool
cool.
and specific. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to differentiate hail from snow. So hail does damage and snow lowers accuracy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really
Right,
strange
okay.
how Pokemon treats snow and hail as the same thing when they are very much not.
So you want to try and make it more realistic, I suppose. Like
To an extent, yeah.
Have you considered things like the battle terrain? This is something that I've always wanted, and we've only gotten it in Gen 6 with Sky Battles, where where the battle is happening matters to the Pokemon and the moves that are allowed to be used.
You should play Pokemon Reborn and Pokemon. There's something else. There's Reborn, and then there's another Pokemon game which is a complete reset or something of Reborn. But those games have environment types.
I've heard a lot about Reborn.
Reborn has a lot of new stuff, a lot of innovations, really cool things. But at the same time, it's also, don't mind my French, a complete shit show.
People say it's it's very RNG heavy. People are like, yeah, don't do it. Nuzlocke Reborn. There's no point of even trying it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it. Like, the name sounds familiar, but I know very little about fan games. Somehow that's just not something that really reached me, that really appealed to me.
I remember I was actually looking back on my old videos, and I remember saying at the beginning of, I don't remember what it was, maybe Pokemon Glazed or something. I was playing a fan game or something along those lines, and I was like, yeah, I don't like playing fan games that much. And I was just like, damn, times have changed. It's like what my whole channel is now.
Now you're practically the first YouTuber that's played arguably the worst fan game in the entire.
I didn't even finish it. I was like, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna see it to the end. And then somebody in my comments told me like there was like another 8 hours or something, and I'm just like, nope, not happening. I'm done with this. Pokemon Whack is something else. I mean, there's been another YouTuber that's covered it, but like I think they covered it like before it was updated to have a bunch of extra stuff. Like their finale was like way back, so I don't know. Right. I've not finished it, but I did the main game, so that's all that really matters, right?
The segue I wanted to make is because this is a hot take maybe, but Pokemon Reborn has a lot of things going for it. But even then, story-wise and lore-wise, Pokemon Whack is actually better.
Jesus Christ.
To an extent. I mean, yeah, that's a hot take.
I don't know. I mean, the thing I love about fan games is just seeing like just different people's takes on Pokemon, to be honest. Like, you know, for a Pokemon Whack, it was whack, but it was still a lot of time went into the game, and you could tell, even though the sprites were bad, there was still community sprites where people made them look nice, and you know, you could tell a lot of time went into the game because it was a big game. It may not be quality, but quantity was there. so you can appreciate how much time went into making it. And yeah. I appreciate how much time people put into Pokemon in general. Like, I don't know if it's off topic. If someone like makes me, I guess, a piece of art, like fan art or whatever, I'm like super appreciative because I'm like, they took an hour or two, whatever, how long it'll take out of their day to make something for me specifically. Like, that's just dope. So like, I kind of see fan games the same way. It's like many hours have been taken out of days to make this fan game, and it makes me sad that Pokemon kind of just shut them down. It makes me really sad.
One of those pieces of art is actually the small open door I've gotten to befriend Callum. You use that, I have no idea what it's called again, but in your playthrough you used that yellow angel thing. That was one of mine.
Oh, was it? Yeah. The thing was amazing, dude. I can kind of tell when you've made something. I don't know. It's really detailed, but no, it looks Pokemon-ish.
It's a good thing. I have a recognizable style in some extent. Then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you do a really good job of actually making your designs in general actually look like Pokemon, because not everyone does. Like, even I don't think that I always really capture the Pokemon style when I'm designing a fakemon or even just doing a redesign of an existing Pokemon.
I've gotten a lot better because I've gone into communities with people like Smiley Fakemon.
Yeah.
Which is on DeviantArt and also on Twitter. My lead artist of Zirconia is Feral Gator. She was also a huge help in getting the Pokemon style down, her feedback, Smiley's feedback, the community of Smiley's Discord channel. So all those bits of feedback in making Pokemon look more like Pokemon has really developed my output of how Pokemon should look.
Speaking of making Fakemon, is there anything in particular that draws you to make Fakemon, that encourages that?
Well, whenever I have an idea, I could put it on paper, and if it's a good one, I'll iterate on it, change things on it, and consider it for my game. So it's really a drive of where does my creativity take me, and could I take my creativity to a new level which I can use to make other people happy by either looking at my art or using my art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ask because when I make fakemon, when I make redesigns, mostly I'm doing it as an exercise in creature design, and like it doesn't have to be a Pokemon necessarily. The Pokemon is like uh, the restrictions that I place on myself to just like work within this framework kind of thing. So like a redesign. I just recently did Rhyperior, and so like I want it to be Rhyperior. I want it to still be Rhydon's evolution, but I want it to look better. So like that's a very specific framework that I'm working in. I'm not really going like, oh, I'm going to create a Pokemon. A Pokemon is already what I'm working from in the beginning, right? So yeah. So is there something about Pokemon that makes you want to make more Pokemon?
Yeah, just untouched areas, the dark side of the moon. I mean, Pokemon makes designs of certain species and everything. I mean, but there's so much animals, subjects, subject matters. There's so much to turn into a cute thing that evolves into something badass. I mean,
there's so many butterfly Pokemon.
I mean, there are a lot of butterflies, but it's true that there's a lot of different kinds of animals that haven't been touched.
Yeah, for sure. It's not even just about animals. It's like Alcremie. Yeah, I really like her. She's really cool. She's another food Pokemon, and she kind of reminds me of Diancie a bit, but like not.
If Alcremie doesn't get the power of alchemy, I'll be cross.
The power of alchemy.
Yeah, Alcremie.
I hate that. That's her name. I didn't even notice that till like a few days later. Somebody pronounced it as alchemy. I was just like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
Pokemon are just literally like spelling it out now. Like Pokemon alchemy, haha.
On the topic of Pokemon names, naming Fakemon is also pretty hard sometimes.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. It's one thing I actually have really like a big respect for the Pokemon designers is just how clever their nicknames are. Their names are sometimes like Seal, no, but like other Pokemon names, it's just like I don't know. Like Loxton does a good job of like showing off. You know, like, oh, this is the name origin of this Pokemon.
I have a certain snail Pokemon, which is based on soft clay with a pottery shell.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
It will be a pure ground type, and the name I developed for the name I got for it is still one of my proudest names I've come up with. I'm going to call it Molluscata.
Okay, what's the origin of that?
Mollusk and terracotta.
I rate that. Yeah, that sounds dope. Yeah, I like that. That's super cool. Molluscata.
Yeah, about Pokemon names, like I think sometimes they do a really good job, and sometimes they do a really bad job. Even nowadays, because obviously, like Seal, yeah, that's terrible, but it's also 20 years old.
Talonflame.
That's exactly the one I was gonna say. But it's
really Talonflame. You don't like Talonflame?
It's literally 2 words.
That's exactly it. The reason I don't like Talonflame is that it is just 2 words without a space between them.
You're right. I never noticed that. I just never noticed it.
There are names that are just 2 words, but like they mesh in a way that you actually read it as a more continuous
thing. A full name, yeah, like Aegislash.
Yeah.
Is that not just like Aegis and Slash?
Yeah, exactly.
Marowak, bone marrow, whack. Hey.
Yeah. Okay, I get where you're coming from. Talonflame does kind of sound like an item.
Hello, adventurer. Please collect 5 Talonflames.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it sounds like an item as well.
Yeah. Sometimes the names can be really clever.
I don't know if I like it or hate it. I don't want everything to be super complicated, you know. I kind of like the simplicity of Talonflame, but it's like Fletchling, Fletchinder. Where did Talonflame come from?
Yeah.
It's like if it went Pidgeotto and then Fearow randomly, it's like where did Fearow come from? It's Pidgeot, I guess, or Pidgeot as it's apparently meant to be pronounced. I don't know.
That's how I pronounce it, because then it sounds like jet.
Right now, that spider line of mine is a bug ground type, which goes to a bug type, which goes to a bug ice type. So, and it's kind of like preparing and then becoming winter. So it goes from Spy Dirt to Hybrid Hibernation and Pod. That name I'm still unsure about. So, and then the final stage is Cryacnid.
Oh, I like that.
I'm just wondering, like, how names from, like, because Blastoise is Kamex in Japan. Like, I'm just wondering, like, what's Talonflame's Japanese name? Maybe Talonflame's Japanese name is just hard to translate into English. Maybe that's the issue.
Some Japanese names are just stupid. We have Beedrill. What do the Japanese have? Spear.
Yeah, no, some Japanese names are bad too, but some Japanese names are also good. Like, I don't know exactly how it works, but, like, the Bulbasaur family line, they're all puns on a saying about, like, weird grass or something like that. In terms of storytelling, are you doing anything that's more different? Anything that goes outside of the formula of Pokemon games?
I'm aiming for an evil team which aren't idiots.
It's not easy. So are the evil team gonna win then?
No, but more like they're more smart about how things are going, but still, but also to make it more realistic that some kid is going to ruin their plans. I'm planning to make the protagonist not 10 years old but 17, so it's a little bit more realistic that that a teenager will be able to undermine a corporation which is doing not so good things.
So it's not like the evil villain is like, I don't know, because like I always feel like Pokemon villains are always like, battle me. Like in Giovanni, he just kind of like hands you the scope to see ghost types or whatever, and he's like,
Yeah,
oh, you
it's
beat me
scope,
like that.
yeah.
Oh. Team Rocket Grunt drops the keys or something because he lost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the whole argument of if you lose a battle in Pokemon, the reason people hand you money is because your Pokemon's kind of like a loaded weapon. It's like,
Hey, that's my theory.
yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, so it's really cool. So I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense for something. But I feel like I don't know though. Pokemon's a kids game at the end of the day, so it'll be super cool to see a more, I guess, cold, realistic take on like I guess an evil team. So like you know, rather than just being like, oh no, I lost this battle here, have this important. I am.
And if your evil team is a corporation, I think that's also like a good departure, because most of the evil teams, they've been like gangsters essentially, or like Team Plasma was basically a cult.
Team, was it Aether Foundation? Was that like a charity? Was it like a charity or something? I don't know.
But Aether Foundation was weird because for the most part, they weren't evil. It was basically just Luzamine.
Lysander was the CEO of a corporation.
He was, but Team Flare was not the corporation. Lysander was the CEO or the owner or whatever of Lysander Labs. Like, they were obviously related, but they were not actually the same thing.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same as like, I don't know, like say the president of the Sylph company. That's the one. Like say the president. Imagine if he was Giovanni, just like
Right.
Giovanni was the president of the Sylph company, and that would be super cool. Like imagine just Mr. Robot is like one of my favorite shows ever. But basically, the whole thing about that show is like the main character is a hacker, and he wants to take down this evil corporation, or this big corporation that is evil. And it's kind of just like, it'd be cool to have that in a Pokemon game where like, I guess the big company, like imagine if Pokemarts were like, I guess how Pokemon whack the Marts, the Juvite Corporation.
Juvite,
yeah. It's kind of like that, I guess. Kind of, it's kind of cool having a big corporation that everybody adores and like buys from or whatever, or whatever they sell or whatever they do. Like those are really the villains, and you kind of got to convince people like, oh my god, look what these guys are doing, and nobody believes you or something. Like I don't know.
Another thing I want to add to Zirconia, which isn't in the main games, is is one thing which are gym types and trainer types, because every trainer type you have follows a certain theme. I mean, if you encounter a bird keeper, you immediately know, oh, just my electric type can take this guy out. Bird keepers will have mostly flying types, and bug catchers will have bug types and that kind of thing. And gym leaders will have one certain type in which you can, in some cases, completely wipe a gym with one Pokemon.
Like Brock, if you start with anything that isn't a Charmander.
In Zirconia, I want to make it so that gyms and trainers are still following a certain direction with that, but then more thematic and realistic. Bug catchers will also have a flying or fire type to catch those bugs with.
Right, and that introduces some type variety as well that
Yeah.
makes things a little bit more difficult. I like that.
Gyms will have themes instead of a type. So the first gym leader will be a construction worker. So his team will be based around construction work.
So like steel, rock, ground types, kind of.
Yeah,
general.
fighting, normal, ground.
Oh yeah,
rock.
fighting. I mean, like I guess Conholder would fit that. Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. I remember I played a ROM hack called Pokemon Manly Pink, and like the first gym, I think, or the second gym was like monkey Pokemon. So it's like, you know, they had like the Simmies, I think, or something like that. So they did it based on like the species of the Pokemon, which I thought was kind of different and cool. I've not seen any other game do that, I don't think.
There's one ironic thing which I'm going to put in Zirconia, just by design. The only type which is going to be used by a gym or certain people is the synth type. That's the only monotype thing which I'm going to implement.
I thought you were about to say I'll make sure there's no dark types at any gyms ever. But no, that's pretty cool. I mean, that makes sense to have like one gym just be the new type. That makes sense.
For that Manly Pink, did they tie that, like, those themes into some kind of lore or like some part of the storytelling?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it was it was more of a simple 5 red ROM hack where it wasn't so
Right.
much a story change. I don't remember. I played that game like in 2013. I need to go back and visit it. I don't think I ever played it on my channel. It was just like I played it in my own free time.
Okay.
So I don't know how far the game is, but I know in Pokemon Manly Pink, it was like one of the gym leaders used the Brock or Misty. It was like, we use monkey Pokemon here, and it's just like, okay, that's pretty cool. So it was just like the Simmies and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think that would be an interesting way to, like, that would be something that would be really cool if you tie that into the lore. It's just like, oh, here, like, this is a research facility and we study monkeys. Therefore, all the Pokemon are monkeys.
Yeah, and it's,
you know, something
it's
along those lines.
Here we only have tech Pokemon, so it's just like our man-made Pokemon. I don't know how many man-made Pokemon there are, but there's not that many, is there? I don't know. Fish. There's fish Pokemon, but most of those will be water types. It's hard because you can be like, yeah, we're bird trainers, but it's like they're all flying types. Yeah, we train dragons. Wow, I wonder what type those are. It's kind of hard to differentiate the two. So I do really like Nick's idea of, oh, I'm a construction worker. These are my Pokemon. There's like normal ground fighting, rock, steel. You know, those are all up for grabs.
Also electric, because there's electricians and
That's very true.
Yeah.
I would really like to see more varied storytelling in Pokemon in general.
That's what fan games are for. I'm sad that they aren't really approving of fan games.
Yeah, I do find it kind of strange how Nintendo or Game Freak, or the Pokemon Company, I don't know who pushes this, but how they're not really into fan games. Yeah, I get them not wanting to other people to use their art, but like, people are going to create within your franchise, like within your world, no matter what. Exactly. I don't think that fan games are really going to like make any kind of dent in your company earnings.
No, I mean, there are those few people out there, the very vocal minority, that'll be like, yeah, I just play fan games. I don't ever buy Pokemon games. Very vocal minority, but they literally don't matter because they're not going to buy the Pokemon games anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if the fan games didn't exist, they're not going to buy your Pokemon games anyway, you know, like, because they just don't want to, they don't have the money to. I don't know, like, they just, I don't know. Fan games, I wish Pokemon would embrace. I don't know. I feel like Pokemon and Game Freak or Nintendo in general are always like 5 years behind. So I think all these companies nowadays, like, you know, Minecraft and Fortnite, they're embracing fans and, like, you know, and including them more in the development of the games. And I don't know. They're being a bit more open and allowing mods.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much modding is going on in Minecraft.
Skyrim. Stuff like games nowadays are more open to modding because of PCs and stuff. So hopefully one day Pokemon, maybe not so much modding, but Pokemon are a bit more accepting. I don't know. It's kind of hard to ask because they're well within their rights to stop people from making fan games and stuff like that, and I totally get it. It's same with like merchandise. They don't like people making merchandise unless it's like, transformative enough.
That one though, like that I definitely get, because if
Yeah,
you're
for
buying
100%.
a Pokemon T-shirt that isn't made and sold or licensed by them, that does mean that they're not getting money.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Pokemon games are, I feel like they're missing a good chunk of world building, even like within the established canon. Like, because we never see things like the political structure of the Pokemon world. Like, there's a lot that is kind of implied or that you assume is in that world somehow, but we just don't see it because it's not relevant to the games.
Because we're just like, where do gym leaders come from? Why are you, who made you a gym leader?
Who chose you? Yeah, because sometimes it seems to be appointed and sometimes it seems to be inherited. Like Flannery got her gym from her dad, and same with Faulkner. But that's not something that they explore, and that's exactly the kind of thing that fan games and fan fiction can explore without infringing on Pokemon like at all.
Fan games and fan fiction kind of have to explore that because the Pokemon itself has the games which don't explore that. But then on its turn, the anime explores it fully.
Does it though?
Well, not as fully as not to stop there, but it gives more context to gym leaders than the games do. And with that, they can midgetate certain views and fans and get even more revenue. But fan games and fan fiction really have to do an all package deal because otherwise nothing comes over.
Yeah, but I feel like the anime, like I always think of the anime as a separate canon because even though it's based on the games, it's made by different people. Like the Game Freak team is credited in the anime obviously because they came up with the characters and they probably informed some of the not just the story because that obviously comes from the games, but also some of the anime specific elements are probably Game Freak being like, oh hey, this is something that we didn't put into the games, but this is something that you could explore.
Yeah.
But it's still made by other people. Yeah, so I'm sure that they are related, but also the anime people are probably coming up with their own ideas, and Game Freak is just going like, yeah, that's all right, you can do that. In a way, the anime is sort of fan fiction as well.
Back to the very beginning of the discussion, this is why I love Pokemon. Just everything we're talking about. It's just so much. There's just so much to it. There's so much more to it than just the surface level stuff. Like there's the whole fan theory with the Ho-Oh reviving the three evolutions, and there's so much. There's just so much to Pokemon. It just has a lot going for it.
Yeah, and actually, I think probably what causes us to make theories is probably similar to what causes us to want to explore the world in other ways, because like there's clues in the games or in the franchise as a whole, but very few answers. So like, yeah, we know that, or like the lore is that Ho-Oh revived the three legendary beasts.
Yeah.
But like, were they always legendary beasts? That's not something that we know necessarily. So that's something that we try to
because apparently they were just meant to be like three regular Pokemon, weren't they?
Yeah.
And the fact that the evolution ladies are in Equitique as well, people would just put two and two together, and then the evolution's main abilities ended up being Raikou and Suicu's hidden abilities, and it's just like, ooh. I think one of the coolest thing about Pokemon as well, one of the reasons why I think Pokemon leave things loose is I don't know if they like us here, but I think what Pokemon wants, and it seems obvious to me that they just want their franchise to last. So if they leave things loose, they can come back to it later.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can come back in a couple of years from now, make Black and White 3, and then give us the original Dragon or whatever. I don't know, maybe Black and White 2. They'll be like, okay, now Black and White 2 remake, but we'll throw in an original Dragon, new reason to buy the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like I think they leave things loose on purpose just so. Because like that X and Y girl, the ghost girl, like what was she all about? What was that all about?
X and Y had a lot of that. But that's something that they did really well in Generation 2, because Generation 2, the whole thing was essentially a sequel to Gen 1, so they were able to introduce some new mysteries, but also like address a lot of the stuff that they had left unanswered in Generation 1.
I think there's a few like references from Black and White 1 that carry over to Black and White 2 that like not a lot of people know about. Like people make videos on it. It's super cool. I think X and Y, the issue with X and Y was they left it a little too loose.
Yeah, I feel like they probably were planning on
The Pokemon Z, but then they just
Pokemon
scrapped
Z.
it.
Yeah, because there's so much that's left out, and because we did get that Zygarde side quest.
We also got Ashko Ninja, which was an X and Y thing. But
Right,
we got
yeah,
it
from the
Sun
X and
Moon.
Y arc of the anime.
I definitely feel like Pokemon Z was just scrapped or something.
Because I don't really have access to a few Pokemon games, it's also the reason why I go to fan games. Because one, they're free, and two, and they're well, there's several reasons. The main reason is they're free.
Because I mean, if they charge for a fan game, then that is Pokemon within their right to take it down 100%. I think like if somebody starts charging for a fan game, it's like, yeah, you put a lot of time and effort into it, but you're using Pokemon's property, you can't make money off that.
Also, Shed, you said something about using Pokemon's property before. That's one of the precautions I'm taking with Zirconia, because I have a spriter on my team right now, which is respriting Pokemon just for the cause of not looking like original sprites from the game.
That's cool, though. Like
that'll make your game really cool as well.
Yeah.
Like, because one of my favorite things about playing Pokemon, I guess the older games, one of the differences between like Gold and Silver was the different poses that Pokemon were in. And it would, you'd like trade with someone and be like, yo, look at the pose that my Pokemon's in. And it's like, yo, why does Cyndaquil look so cool in your game? I want Cyndaquil to be like look like that. So like that, I really, that'll be something new, fresh going into your game. You'll have old Pokemon there, but we'll get to see them in like a different pose or like, a different art style, because your art style is a bit more detailed than typical Pokemon.
That was definitely one of the unextra appeal of all the games that had sprites versus the ones with models, because back then, not every time, but almost every time that a new game came out, it was with the Pokemon in a different pose. So, and now
I get to see what this Pokemon looks like now, and now it's, I know it's future-proofing Pokemon or whatever. I understand why they're doing. You can't really make a 3D model go into like a different pose or whatever because it's moving constantly.
I kind of feel like I should thank you guys too, because I've been on a bit of a low streak on my fan game, and this talk is really helping me motivate myself for.
I'm glad.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
I can't blame you. Like I've had thoughts of making like a fan game, but obviously not to the extent you are going to. But like it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So I can't blame anybody that has made a fan game or thought about it that kind of just gives up halfway through. It's a lot of work to see through to the end. It is it's a commitment. Making a game is not an easy feat. That's why I think a lot of people do ROM hacks, because it's like you kind of just change things, whereas making a game from scratch is like ugh.
I have definitely wanted to make ROM hacks more often than wanting to make like a game from scratch. I've done a few Pokemon redesign projects, and it's like, well, I kind of want to make a ROM hack of, Fire Red and Leaf Green or whatever, but replacing all of the Pokemon with
your redesigns. Yeah, that would be a super cool. Yeah, like even if it was just vanilla Fire Red, but with like your redesign. That'd be super cool to play through. I played through like a game called Pokemon Bidoof version, which is just Bidoof fusions, and it was just fun to play through, like, and look at all the different like Bidoof sprites. It's like, why does Abra look like that? Like.
By chance, one of the official Pokemon which will appear on one of the first routes in Zirconia is a Bidoof. That's because in Zirconia, Bidoof will have a regional evolution. So.
Oh, okay. I think regional forms are those are a yes for me. I like those, and I also really like what fans do when it's like so for example, a Swablu and a Scraggy had a baby together. It would kind of be like a fluffy Scraggy. Like I love I don't know what those are called specifically, but I think those are really cool too, and I wish that would just make Pokemon too complicated. So I doubt they would ever do it. But I love that's one fan thing that I absolutely
that's an awesome
so
fan
much.
concept. I think it's called breeds. The concept is a bit more aesthetic. Like the baby is still a Scraggy, but it looks a little bit different. It has some of the traits of the
yeah.
That's really cool concept. Yeah.
I really like that, but it would overcomplicate Pokemon. Way too much if they ever did that. So I think regional variants is a nice middle ground for Pokemon.
Regional variants
as a company.
is such a fantastic
idea.
Yeah.
Like I said, Pokemon just wants longevity. That will elongate their series if they just keep those coming.
There's one fan game which Callum also played to completion. It's Insurgents.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Pokemon Insurgents.
They don't have regionals. They have more Delta species based on the Holon thing from the trading card game.
Trading card game.
Right. Yeah. I've seen designs for Delta species, but I don't think I've. I don't really know what the lore behind them is.
But because they're not regional, they don't have much lore that goes into how they became regional to fit the region. They're more like. Right. Oh yeah, we have 2 types. We're putting them on a Pokemon for science. That's basically it with all of them.
And yeah, exactly. The designs of them are really, really cool though. They're really, really cool. And you wouldn't get that in an actual Pokemon game. That's only something you can get from fan games. And the main reason I guess for this podcast is to kind of discuss fan games. So like that's one thing I love about fan games is just stuff that Pokemon themselves will never explore. That's why I just love about the fan base in general.
Yeah, then that's what I'm always looking for. I read I went looking for some fan fiction recently, and the vast majority of the Pokemon fan fiction out there is anime fan fiction, and it's more about like character relationships. Whereas what I really want to see is world building. I want to see the things that aren't in the game. I want to actually read what actually happened to the legendary beasts before they were revived, but not as a myth.
I think most people just turn those into theories because it's easier to do it as theories, but it would be cool if somebody just wrote a story about it. Yeah. There probably has been somebody, it's just it's hard to find the right keywords.
Yeah,
you kind
for
of
sure.
You kind of have to be linked it or discover it or, you know.
Yeah, even if you go looking specifically for game fan fiction, a lot of it is still based on characters and not on world building.
I might do a shout out for that or something, because I do want to add a library in my game, and those need books with stories.
Yes.
So
yeah, end of the day, love Pokemon and love the things that fans bring to the table, and fan games is just an awesome.
Keep them coming.
I guess there's been a lot more fan games recently, because like back in 2013 I said I don't really like playing fan games, but back then there wasn't really that many complete ones that were decent. Like Pokemon Snakewood was like my idea of a good fan game back then. Now it's, you know, there's a lot more now, and I think it's just because the Pokemon community just keeps getting bigger and bigger, so I imagine we'll just keep getting more and more good fan games like the one.
And I imagine
Nick
the phenomenon of Pokemon Uranium in 2016, I think it was. I bet that was a big contributing factor for people to actually pursue making their own games.
Yeah.
Uranium kind of set a bar somewhere, which people now are trying to get on or beyond. So
that's what Pokemon Clover is trying to do. Pokemon Clover, when they re-release their game or whatever, they're trying to like set the bar. Like, all right, this is a good Pokemon fan game. Do this. I'm really looking forward to that.
Clover is more of a refined whack, actually, but yeah.
Essentially.
Thank you both, Callum and Nick, for joining me. Links to Callum's YouTube, which you probably already follow, but also both of their Twitter accounts are in the description. And if you want to join Nick in building Zirconia, the invite to his Discord channel is also in the description. So make sure you go check him out if you don't know them already. And I also want to thank you for listening to Tin Tower Talks. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, whatever the platform you're listening to this on allows you to do. And if you want to support Tin Tower Talks in other ways, you can check out our Patreon. The link to that is also in the description. I'm Umbrian Libris, and I'll see you in the next chapter.